Hello everyone, if you clicked on today's video, you're probably wondering what inverse property is, and I'm going to be here to guide you step by step as we do them. And I'm going to explain to you what they are, and then we'll do a few examples together. And just so you know that this is the addition side of inverse property, and if you want to check out the multiplication side of inverse property, that's actually in another video of mine. So, going right into our lesson, it is important that we know what inverse property is. And to simply put it, inverse property is where you use the opposite operation being done to solve that problem, and for addition, you will always get 0. And to explain a little bit more, so if I have this number I see at the problem, I'm going to take that same number and I'm going to do the opposite operation being done. And so in this case, it would only be addition and subtraction. And then I would get 0. And then here's the formula for you if you want to see it visually. So if I start with a positive value, then I'm going to plug in a negative value of that same value and I should get 0. Vice versa, if I do it with a negative value and I replace it with the same number, just the opposite operation being done, which is addition essentially, then you will get 0. So now let's put this into theory or practice. So starting off, I have negative 8 plus what would get me 0. So I know that I'm going to end with the same value. So I have 8. So I already know that what I'm going to plug in is going to be 8. And I know that I see a negative in front of that 8. So I'm actually going to do the opposite operation of that, which would be addition. So I'm simply going to put a positive 8. Negative 8 plus positive 8 gets me 0. Going on to my second example, I have 100 plus what would get me 0. So I see that this 100 is positive and that it's 100. So I know I'm going to put a 100 and I'm going to do the opposite operation, which would be a negative. So 100 plus negative 100 gets me 0. Going on to my third example, I have negative 30 plus what gets me 0. So already I see that negative, so I know that the opposite of that would be positive, and I already know that I have 30, so I'm just going to plug in that 30 and I'm going to make sure it's positive. So negative 30 plus positive 30 gets me 0. Going on to my fourth and last example, I have 67. 67 plus what gets me 0. I know that this 67 I'm starting off with is a positive. And I know I'm going to do the opposite operation, which would be to make that a negative. And I know that, of course, I'm going to use that same number that I'm given. So I'm actually going to plug in negative 67. 67, positive 67 plus negative 67 gets me 0. So that's essentially how you solve for inverse property on the addition half. This is only addition. So I'm going to take that same value I am given, and I'm simply going to plug that number in. I'm just going to switch the operation being done, whether it's a negative or positive. So just evaluate your question, and really you're finding the opposite. So if I start with the positive, I'm going to plug in a negative. If I start with the negative, I'm going to plug in a positive. That's what inverse property of addition truly is. So that's all for today's video. I have more videos on mathematical properties or any other thing you can think of for math help. And this is Ari, the math tutor, signing out. See you guys in the next one.